I'm gonna hit record. Warning,
Okay.
warning, I'm hitting record. Warning, warning, record is on. So we're gonna record that thingy where
Cool.
you do the this is Betty Jean Bell from beingbadass.com. And you are listening to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith. Whatever you want to do.
I got it.
So whenever you're ready, hit it.
This is Betty Jean Bell from beingbadass.com, and you're listening to Jeff Smith on Vroom Vroom Veer, the best podcast out there for the road differently traveled.
Wow. No fair, you practiced.
I did practice.
See?
Totally
People are
practiced.
listening. Yay. If it makes me happy if no one else listens but my guests. Perfect.
Oh man, I love your show. I love listening. So I was like, okay, I'm definitely practicing this all morning.
There you go. And I already coughed, so I'm going to have to take a break. All right, I'm going to hit stop. I'll be right back.
Cool.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Carmen Dellutri, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
I'm doing good, Jeff. Thank you for having me. It's been a great day so far, so I look forward to talking to you.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about what you've got going on in your business over there at the Dellutri Law Group. Did I get that right?
Yeah, actually, we're pretty excited right now. We have a couple things going on. We run a small law firm, and it's really came across, I started about 20 years ago with a vision of just not being the biggest law firm out there, but being the baddest law firm, if that makes sense. So we use a lot of technology to talk to our clients and a lot of case management to keep our cases flowing, but we don't take everything that comes through the door. We're kind of limited, and we've kind of like niched ourselves in several different areas. So a lot of things going on, and we just got some good news from the bankruptcy court. Let me tell you what we do.
Okay.
I started my practice doing personal injury law about 20 years ago.
Okay.
Car accidents,
Sure.
automobiles, trucks.
Yeah, fighting the insurance
motorcycle
companies. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I kind of got thrown into the bankruptcy world,
Okay.
the consumer bankruptcy world. And I realized that there was a niche here that I could really exploit because a lot of attorneys in the bankruptcy court were not litigators. Okay. And to be a personal injury attorney, you had to be a litigator.
Right.
You had to go to court, you had to try cases, you had to do all that stuff.
Right.
And I realized, wow, this is a really good mix for me because no one else is doing what I do. Another reason, if you're running a business, you got to have cash flow. And bankruptcy is constant cash flow because people are coming in and retaining you. And personal injury cases, sometimes it's feast or famine. You can go 2 months without any revenue coming in.
Right.
So you gotta feed your family as well. Well, anyway, flash forward. Now we're probably from Tampa to Miami. We're probably the largest consumer bankruptcy firm out there.
Wow.
And our personal injury practice, we've kind of really niched it down. But one thing that's really exciting to answer your question is that the bankruptcy court now has allowed us to implement what's called a student loan mediation plan or program, whereby we can start negotiating with student loan lenders to help our clients out in the Chapter 13 bankruptcy arena, whereby a person goes in and they say, I want to pay back a portion of my debts or some of my debts or all of my debts, but I need time and I need space to do it.
Right.
Well, now the court is allowing us to go out and say to the student loan people, hey, come on into this conversation. We need to talk.
Right. Okay.
And it's a pretty exciting time for us because you're taking people now who thought student loans they'd be paying them forever. And now we've got an opportunity to modify them along with all of their other debts and create a scenario for them to live a life of meaning again, where they may be able to go out and buy a house or buy a new car or pay these things off one day. So it's really exciting time.
That is amazing because that's the sort of deal that Donald Trump got from the IRS, right?
I'm not familiar with that case, but
before he became president, he went broke for a significant portion of his life because of back tax thing, right?
That's very possible.
Yeah. Well, I heard about it on the news, and obviously he's come back, right?
Obviously.
Big time, right? But
And again,
and he was sort of avoiding the whole situation, right, for a while, and then he just decided. I think he was at a dinner, and there was an umpty-ump from the IRS, and he was like, we get it, but just come on in, and we'll make a deal. And he's like, oh, I can make a deal.
right.
Yeah. So what you created is something like that used to be reserved for the likes of Donald Trump, which is pretty amazing.
Well, I look forward to helping a lot more people with that strategy. And again, going back to the Donald Trump situation, you know what? Sometimes avoiding a creditor is not a bad strategy.
I get it. That's funny.
It's actually, we use it a lot in our business, but.
Okay. So this is Vroom Vroom Veer. Thanks for sharing about your business. We'll talk more about it later down the road, but this is Vroom Vroom Veer. So we have to go back in time and talk about your life in about an hour. So where did you grow up?
Actually, I grew up in a little town outside of Newark, New Jersey called Hillside. I was born in 66. So
I was born in 69,
early 70s.
So we're very close.
Yep.
Nice. Okay. So
I had a very unique childhood, you might say. And I tell the story to people. Have you ever seen the movie, what's it, A Bronx Tale?
No.
Okay. A Bronx Tale, Chaz Palminteri. It's a great story about a young kid growing up. I think it was Brooklyn at the time, about how he grows up and what he learns and who he sees. But he's hanging outside with a bunch of gangsters, and he starts learning from the gangsters.
Okay.
I kind of had a similar upbringing.
Okay.
And here, let me tell you why. My dad owned a gas station in the center of this town, and every kind of, I don't know what you want to call them back then, with their just like Goodfellas.
Wise guys, Goodfellas.
Used to come through this place. There was every character you can imagine would come through this place. And it's funny because I watched that movie with my kids not too long ago, and they looked at me and they go, so that's why you're like you are.
Okay.
I was like,
all right.
That's a good thing, I guess. That's a good thing. It was a totally different type of upbringing. I mean, growing up in the gas station, that's where I got my business sense and my business savvy from.
Okay.
Because I would see how my dad would interact with different people.
Right. Civilians, wise guys.
Yeah. And it was really interesting because, he had a theory that he liked. I mean, you work hard and that's it. You always work hard. That will make you successful in life, no matter what business you're in. You could be a garbage man, but be the best garbage man you can be.
Right.
You want to be a salesman, be the best salesman you can be.
Right.
So to train me, what he did is he believed in childhood labor, and he would put me to work after school every day. So I'd go
from a very young age.
Oh yeah. Probably since the time I was 4 or 5, I was pumping gas.
Wow. You do know what kind of gift that is now, but I bet you the 4 or 5-year-old didn't like it.
No, Jeff, I loved it.
Really?
I thought it was the greatest thing in the world.
Well, that's great.
It was great. And again, I didn't think about it as work because I was getting to spend time with my dad at the gas station, and I was learning more there than I could ever, know what I was learning. You're right. It was a gift. It was the best gift.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have parents like that. My parents, I got a job. I think my first job, I was a teenager, probably my freshman year or maybe my sophomore year, somewhere in that kind of perspective. But I was sort of like mowing the lawn at the church. Mm-hmm. But there was no supervision, right? The pastor knew me from Sunday school and thought I was responsible and would show up and had perfect attendance, right? So he just assumed that would translate into, a nicely mowed lawn. Didn't work out because I just never showed up.
That was my next question. How did it work out for you?
It did not. It turned out that, my dad ended up, I was okay mowing the lawn. It's just like pick a day of the week, go mow the lawn, right? Uh-huh. I had no problem doing that. It was anything else like, you should be picking weeds, or you should be doing that, or you should be doing this. And I really was at that age where I needed somebody to tell me that I needed to do that because I wasn't going to figure it out myself. I had no problem doing it. You couldn't just leave it to me. I didn't have the responsibility at that age to do that. So, and then I also had to shovel snow in the winter. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And my dad ended up shoveling all that snow. I don't think I shoveled snow once, and that was wrong, and I feel bad about it. But eventually, another kid just came up to me and said, "Hey, it seems like you kind of don't want this job. Can I have it?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Absolutely.
I'm not really doing it anyway. Anyway, so the pastor didn't really like me after that so much, but he got over it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as long as you had another kid to cut the lawn, what's wrong with that?
Right. So good for you. I mean, I think it was that I say it's a gift because here you are, you're 4 or 5 years old, and you're learning what the world is like for work, which is that's an amazing gift. I wish I would have had it. See, then if I would have had that, then when I got to teenager, I would have been a lot more responsible already. So good for you.
Yep, it was definitely a blessing.
So what kind of kid were you in high school?
I'll be honest with you, I was a pretty normal kid. I mean, I went to Seton Hall Prep in New Jersey, and that's a great high school academically. I wasn't big enough to play sports because some of these kids were absolute monsters. I mean, Seton Hall Prep in New Jersey was known for its football team.
Okay.
And these kids were huge.
Right.
And I was still growing until I was 17. And some of these kids were like, they had full beards. Yeah, they had full beards as a freshman, and they were 6'9".
Yeah. No, I get it. So did you fall into more of like the academic kind of kid?
I mean, I did really well in academics because I'm a competitor. So that's where I competed. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I knew that I could get good grades. I looked around these kids at me and I was like, oh, they're not smarter than me. But then afterwards, I'd go home, I'd get changed, and I'd go to work with my dad.
Ah, nice. So you kept working at the gas station throughout high school?
Always.
That's amazing.
Yeah, my dad wouldn't have it any other way. I was free labor.
I was close to free labor. So my second job in high school, I worked at a grocery store. And so in Michigan, they've got that 10-cent deposit for bottle returns.
Uh-oh, here we go. Okay.
So all the people that they would bring their bottle returns in, and then we had to roll the carts back from the front to the back and then sort them by distributor. So that was my main job.
Hey.
Yeah. This guy's Pepsi, this guy's Coke, this guy's Pepsi, this guy's Coke.
Right.
From like after school until 10 o'clock. And then the other job was pushing those carts from the corrals to the back into the store. But in Michigan, they had this teenage work labor law where it was legal to charge you less than minimum wage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Nice, huh?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did that job for like one school year and a summer, but then I was like, you know what? I don't need this money. I don't need this money and I don't need this job. So I quit and everybody thought that was a bad thing to do, but I did it anyway. So 2 years later, I joined the Air Force and never had a job again. Woo! So obviously you're a lawyer, so that means that you went to college. So
yes, sir.
Did you know you wanted to be a lawyer before you started college?
That's a funny story. And here's why. And growing up in New Jersey, I don't know, it's kind of different than growing up anywhere else in the world, I think. Right. And, the funny thing is when they talk, if somebody's got an illness like cancer, they kind of lower their breath like, oh my God, they got cancer. And they don't really like to say the bad things loudly because everybody up there is loud and Italian and it's crazy.
Sure.
But when they say, oh, they got cancer. So they kind of lower their voices. And then they say, oh, he's a lawyer. Well, we had a lawyer who worked across the street. So everybody who would go into his office would kind of get dressed up and they'd go in there. And one day I said to my dad, I said, Dad, why do people get dressed up when they go to a lawyer's office? I say, well, sometimes you need a lawyer when you get in a little bit of trouble or you got to do something. So people would put their church clothes on to go see the lawyer.
Of course.
And what they did is they showed him a level of respect for who he was.
Okay.
But I was like, well, what makes him different than us? And he goes, well, it's all in what he knows. He went to school for a long time, but he can help people with what he knows. And I said, but isn't that what we do? Because we know cars, we could fix cars when people can't. We're not plumbers, we're not electricians, we fix cars. And he goes, that's exactly right. but he doesn't get his hands dirty. And I was like, what's wrong with getting your hands dirty? And he said, well, when you're putting your head under a hot engine and you're busting your knuckles every day and you're coming home with cuts and bruises, but you're making a living, that's fine. But wouldn't you rather go to work every day, wear a nice suit or nice clothes, not get your hands dirty, use your brain instead of your hands? And I'm like, I was like 10 or 11 at the time. I'm like, I kind of like what we do. And he goes, after 30 years of it, it gets old. And I was like, all right, that makes sense.
Something to think about. Okay.
Yeah. So I always had that in the back of my mind, but never thought I would go further than high school because nobody expected me to.
Okay.
It was just like, when you get older, you're going to take over your dad's business.
Right. And it sounds like you enjoyed working on cars too.
Loved it. I loved every minute of it. I'm a car guy. No doubt about it.
Right. And that hasn't changed.
No, that hasn't changed.
You're just not doing it for your job, basically. You're doing it for fun.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Now it's a hobby as opposed to a necessity. So,
which is nice.
Yes, it's great.
Yeah, because you don't have to bust your knuckles for anybody but you.
Exactly right.
That's great. So you did decide, I guess in high school that you were going to go do pre-law?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly right. Well, what happened was my dad kind of made the decision for me. One day he comes to our family and he says, when you turn 17 or 18 and graduate from high school, I'm selling the house, I'm selling the gas station, I'm moving to Florida. Nobody believed him because, he'd lived in New Jersey his whole life.
Right.
And sure enough, the day he sold the business, he sold the house before I graduated.
Wow.
And packed up, sold everything in it, packed up and moved to Florida. And that was it. So, my decision for me was pretty simple. New Jersey winters or girls in bikinis. 17-year-old guy, what do you think I chose?
I'm guessing bikinis.
I'm thinking bikinis. So then I headed to Florida. And I got down there and I realized everybody goes to college down there. There's a community college.
Okay.
But even when I got there, I still had no clue as to what I wanted to do. So I started going to community college.
Perfect. I went to Gulf Coast Community College.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was in town, so it wasn't far away. The credit hours were $40 a credit hour.
I know, super cheap.
So I could work and I could pay for my own college, and I was happy about that because that's the way I wanted it to be.
Now, were you at the Panama City campus?
No. I was in Southwest Florida in Edison. It was called Edison Community College, over about 2 hours south of Tampa, in a little place called Fort Myers.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Fort Myers. Nice place.
Yeah, it's a great little town. Still there now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's great.
30 years later, still there. But no, it's a great little place, and it's not little anymore. But it's still a great place to have a family, raise kids, and just awesome place. My daughter is actually going to University of Florida. We're moving her up there in about a month.
Perfect. Okay, so all right, so you moved to Florida when you're still in high school. There's girls in bikinis. Bonus. Bonus. And you're no longer in a prep school, right?
Nope.
Now you're in a public school.
In a public school.
And that's
small, though.
That's a little bit different.
Yeah, a little bit different, but small. It was a nice place to go.
Sure. Yeah. Well, small town public school, not so bad.
Right. Exactly.
Right. I get it. Okay. So now you decide, at what point in high school do you decide that, pre-law or going to law school is for you?
Probably in my third year, after I got my AA degree, I decided to move up to Tampa. My brother had already been living there. He was going to University of Tampa, but I decided to go to USF.
All right.
And pursue a criminal justice degree.
Oh, nice. Okay. Criminal justice. That's perfect for it's better than pre-law, I think. Why not?
Exactly. Well, there was only in Southwest Florida where I was going to school. USF had a branch campus down there, but they only offered 3 majors, and criminal justice was one of them.
Right.
So I could actually take courses in Tampa, Sarasota, and Fort Myers all at once, which was fantastic.
Yeah, you can get a lot more credit hours done.
Exactly. I wasn't supposed to, but there was a lady in the registrar's office who kind of liked me, and she got me into them.
Oh, nice.
I still had the New Jersey deal making thing going
Some
on.
of that wise guy vibe kind of rubbed off.
It's been a wonderful thing for me my whole life. I'm not going to lie.
That's great. I've heard this story before. There's other people that just have like that academic prowess, and they're like, I can totally knock this shit out a lot faster than the normal partying kind of person.
Yeah, that was never me. I was not that kid in college who went there to just drink and drink and drink. I went there to college because then I had a feeling I wanted to go to law school, and I knew I had to finish college before I could actually get into law school.
Right.
But I was paying my way through college, so I had to work,
Right.
which I was fine with.
And you were looking at probably another minimum 2 years, maybe. But
No doubt.
Yeah, you probably shaved a little bit of time off of that, maybe a little.
Actually, no. It actually took me 3 years to get through the last 2 years because when I finally decided what I wanted to do, I was in Tampa and I got a job working at this fantastic nightclub as a bartender.
Okay.
And I was, there I was a low man on the pole, so I had to work my way up. So
Right.
I kind of put work before academics for a little while,
Right.
because number one, the money was fantastic. I was living a great lifestyle, but then one day it hit me. Here I am, 22, 23 years old, and most of the bartenders were in their late 30s.
Okay.
And I said to myself, do I want to be there in 15 years?
Right.
And that was the great eye opener for me. So while in a way it slowed me down for a year, it was kind of like
it's a preview of what you don't want.
Exactly. I think of it like a slingshot. You pull it back for a little while, but then you let go. And once I let go, I was on the path that I'm on today.
Yeah. Okay. So then you move on to law school. So what
Correct.
was that like? I mean, where did you go?
I went to Loyola in New Orleans.
Okay. Wow.
Which is a
New
great
Orleans.
school.
That's amazing. Good spot.
Great town, great place to go, great friends. And then afterwards, I stayed for a year. I went to Tulane and I got my master's of law at Tulane in international law, trade, and finance.
And that's a great city. I mean, just the
it's
food.
great.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, this is true. I'm not gonna lie.
And especially
like
coming from New Jersey. So then,
and I like to eat.
Well, New Jersey, I kind of get the idea that it's the traditional Italian, which is amazing.
Yes, sir.
I actually had a really good friend while I was active duty Air Force, who her last name was Belfiore. Okay, so yeah, so she had the dime on the traditional how to cook Italian the right way. Yeah, I had the what do they call it? The 7 or 8 pieces of seafood for the holiday meal. You know what I'm talking about?
You put me off guard on that one. I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't think of the name.
One of them squid, and it's done right, and there's calamari, and so good.
My mouth's watering now.
Right, I know, so good. Anyway, so there's
just
that.
The thought of it makes you. Just the thought of it.
I know.
Changes the whole body right now. It's like, oh my God, I'm starving.
She was the person that gave me a tomato that it was like locally grown, organic, and she said, "Taste this tomato," and it was literally the first time I'd ever tasted a tomato. Yeah. All that other stuff was a red mush. And I was like, exactly. Oh my God, that's so good. Anyway, so yes.
But it ruined, the problem is it ruins you to go out and eat Italian food anywhere else.
Yeah,
because
you can't.
now.
Yeah, that's true. It's nearly impossible to get real Italian food. Yeah, it's all the crap. Right, I know.
And unfortunately, but it's fine because we cook at home a lot. So
yeah, you have to know somebody or, at least know where to get the ingredients, right?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Right. Everybody's got a guy up there. You got a guy. I got a guy. You got a guy. I got a guy.
Where do you get your garlic? Oh, I got a guy.
I got a guy for that. You got to go to Tony's. Tony's the best. You can't go anywhere else. It's unbelievable. You got to go there.
And the weirdest thing is in LA, when I lived in LA, we got all the traditional Italian food was at a German market. Strangely enough. I know.
Hey, as long as you know where to get it, that's all that matters.
It doesn't matter where it comes from, as long as you know where to get it. Yeah. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the food in New Orleans now, because some of my active duty time in the Air Force was in Panama City.
Okay.
So we went to New Orleans quite often, because it's like a 3-hour drive or something.
Yep.
So we would always stay in a real old shitty place right off of on Canal Street.
Okay.
So like within walking distance of
Bourbon.
Yes, Bourbon Street. And there was this one place that we kept going back to that had the Cajun combo with all the favorites, all the hits. And I still, every time I think about it, I just I got to go back. Yep. I want to go get that gumbo.
Yeah, I'm telling you. The first year I was there, I did not eat the crawfish, and that was the dumbest thing I ever did.
Right.
Because once I tasted them, I'm like, oh my God, you're a moron. These things are fantastic.
They are fantastic. And then you have to have, you got to get a local to teach how to suck the heads.
Oh, yeah.
And the first time you do it, the first time you do it, you're like, one eye closes and you swallow and you're like, wait a minute, that was amazing.
That was amazing.
Right. I know. So good for you. That's a really good spot to get your law degree done.
Oh, yeah. It was wonderful.
And what else can we talk about New Orleans? So you weren't there for Katrina, I hope.
No. I was out of there a long time ago.
Okay. Gotcha. Well before Katrina. Okay, good.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny because you mentioned that. I used to park underneath the Superdome and walk across the street because I was clerking for an appeals court judge.
Right.
So it's funny because when you see how Katrina hit and went through, and the lower Ninth Ward, and I mean the whole city was just a lot of the city was destroyed because of the just imagine
the devastation was like a war zone. Yeah.
Yeah. Me and my buddy used to go down whenever we'd go downtown, which is very rare, but we'd go down to the French Quarter like a Saturday, have a couple beers and stuff, and we sat on the levee and we just say, if these levees ever broke, these people would be so screwed.
Oh yeah.
Because down there, it seems like everything's a party. They want to have a party for everything. And that's not a bad way to live your life. Don't get me wrong.
No.
But in life and death situations, you got to put the party aside and say, okay, even in Florida, we take our hurricanes. All right, it's only a hurricane. It's a 3. We're not too bad off. But,
right.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But you still get your provisions. You still have water. Right. You still have all your backup supplies
prepared.
ready to go.
Yes.
And I could see once that happened that those people were not going to be ready for it. And that was unfortunate. And they're good people.
Yeah,
that's the bad
they're very
part.
good people. And then the big surprise, I saw a documentary about it, because if you were to ask me when I lived in Florida, when a hurricane came in and it was bad, we would just leave.
Yep.
But unfortunately, a lot of those people depended on public transportation, and a lot of them didn't have cars. And they did have evacuation buses, but a lot of people, again, waited too long. And by the time they figured out that they should have left, it was too late.
Correct.
I know. So sad.
And that thing was just massive. And I don't, if I was living there, my parents would have probably said, get the heck out. Being a stupid kid, I probably would have said, nah, I could ride this out. It's just a little bit of rain, right? But the city of New Orleans is like 12 feet under sea level anyway.
It is.
So you got to get out. You can't stay there.
Right.
But it's, it was an unfortunate situation. I felt bad for them because I knew a lot of people there, a lot of the business owners. Yeah. As a student, you don't have a lot of money. So you know where to go where it's cheap. You know where to go to get good food, where they give you student discounts. And a lot of those businesses got wiped out. I mean, it was terrible. But
I haven't been back post Katrina, and I know it's coming back, but it'll be years before.
I haven't been back either. It's I don't want to go back and see it, and it would be tough. It really would be tough because I really my 4 years there were probably some of the funnest things I've ever done.
It's a fun city.
because of the people there.
Yeah,
they were just fantastic people. So you can never say enough good things about them. And the food was secondary because food is always better when you're with a good crowd.
Right. Yeah, the people of New Orleans are amazing and they're resilient. Yeah, they've come back. So.
Yeah, and again, it's just the will of them and just their lifestyle and their spirit. I'm high strung from New Jersey. I'm a get it done kind of guy. And
you don't get much more laid back than the Bayou.
No, they do not. They really do not.
And they know how to have fun.
And they always made fun of me, calling me Yankee and stuff. And I was like, "You Southern boys," and it was a great fit for 4 years. But then life moves on.
Sure. So okay, what do you do immediately after you pass the bar?
Well, I passed. That was a great. You're picking up on all the high points where, and again, we can talk for hours, but every time you're picking on something, it's like, man, how did he know this? Well, after I finished Loyola, I took the New York and New Jersey bar exam, thinking, all right, I'm going to go back there. I'm going to practice international law. I'm going to fly all over the world. Well, I land in Newark Airport to take the New York and New Jersey bar. I look around. I'm like, what the heck am I doing here? I left this place for a reason. So I take the New York and New Jersey bar. I pass them both. I get back on the plane to come home, back to Florida. I get to my parents' house, and I said, Mom, Dad, I got to talk to you. And they're like, what? I said, I think I made a big mistake. And my dad just started laughing. And he's like, you really thought you were going to go back there? And I was like, and I said, I'm going to take the Florida bar. And he goes, pretty good idea. So after that, I took the Florida bar.
Okay.
I started working for a small PI firm, great boss, great guy. And I knew that, I wasn't going to stay there forever. Right. I learned as much as I could in like a year and a half. And one day I said to my wife, I don't know if we were married at the time. No, we weren't. No, I don't think we were married then. Maybe we were. I don't remember. Bad with dates. Anyway, I said to her, I think it's time. And she said, yep, I think you're right. So I decided to start my own practice.
Okay.
And it's been the ride of my life since then. That's been the last 22 years, maybe.
Wow. So you were pretty young.
Yeah, I had like a year and a half experience, but it wasn't so much the law. You can learn the law. That's not hard. It's running the business, which is
all
really
the law is in the books. The business is not in the books.
Think about it. We rely on what's happened in the past, so we can always look it up.
Right.
Right. Why do I remember a phone book?
Right.
I mean, I got a phone book. Why do I need to remember a phone number? It's right there.
Right. Right.
So the law is, and you got to basically interpret what the law is, because there's never a case that comes through the door where it says, oh, well, you could just look at this case and this is exactly what happened. So you've always got a vroom, vroom, veer in every case.
Exactly. Yes. It's very much using subjective precedent to your advantage.
Plus you got to run a business. You got to know how to talk to people. You got to know how to sell yourself.
That's a big deal, because
everything I learned in my past, Jeff, just came back and it really helped me. All those conversations I saw my dad have with people when they blew their engine and deliver the bad news. You learn that people are okay with bad news as long as you deliver it quickly, and you deliver it in a way you say, hey, this is bad news, but we have options.
Right.
In other words, you're twisting the mindset. Yeah, you're $100,000 in credit card debt. You should file bankruptcy, but here's the bright side.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It's learning how to deliver it. It's being confident in yourself, confident in what you're doing. And in my opinion, a lot of lawyers, they're not very confident. They're worried about what other lawyers think about them. They're worried about what, it's just scary to me that they're afraid of making a mistake. And I said, you're human,
Right.
People are going to make mistakes sometimes, and you got to own it.
Right.
And if you make a mistake, you say to the client, look, this is what I told you, but I did a little more research, and here's what's really going to happen. Yeah. So we need to change our game plan.
Right.
And they're like, okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. Not that, oh my God, I told somebody wrong, and what am I going to do? I better contact my malpractice carrier. If you think like that, you're totally missing why they call it the practice of law.
Well, I think especially I'm in Vegas now, so I think this,
okay.
But it's definitely very pronounced here that like the show business of the PI lawyer.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do. I got friends out there, believe it or not, who are PI lawyers.
Sure, but the thing is the whole spectrum of the face that they're trying to put in the public.
Yes.
It just runs the gamut of, okay, I'm this guy, I'm going to be your buddy, right? Or I'm this guy, I never smile. Or I'm this guy, right? Yeah. It's amazing. And I actually had the unfortunate situation where my wife was in an accident last year. So very first time I had to hire a PI lawyer.
Right.
And I didn't know who to hire, but my rule was I don't want to hire any of these guys on billboards or on TV commercials. That was my criteria, right? And
excellent starting point. Excellent starting point.
Exactly. Right. So I called a friend, and she was like, "Oh, my divorce lawyer's husband does PI," and I'm like, "What's his name?" He's like, "Okay, it's this name," and I'm like, "Does he have a billboard?" No. Is he on TV on commercials? No. Okay, I'll talk to him.
I'll be glad to talk to him.
Exactly. And now he turns out that he doesn't have a billboard, but he did do a very tasteful TV commercial. And he comes off as the same person in the office as he is in the commercial. He's
right.
Yeah. So it's, just very, obviously he's in a suit, but in his office, he dresses like he's getting ready to go play golf, which I appreciate. So talk a little bit about the business of being a lawyer for you.
Well, the business of being a lawyer is pretty interesting because they don't teach you that in law school. They don't teach entrepreneurism. They teach you contracts. They teach you family law. They teach you torts. They teach you procedure. And you learn all this great stuff and you get out of practice, you get out of law school and you look at yourself and you're like, I don't know a darn thing about how to file a lawsuit. You don't know how to file it? No. Well, what do you mean? I got to file? I got to take a course now to learn how to file a lawsuit electronically? So you get out and it's a cold slap in the face. Here you are, a newly minted lawyer, and all of a sudden, bam, you really don't know what you're doing. So you go to work for a law firm and then they train you. And then you realize that all these
your
guys,
education, you still need training.
Correct. And all these guys are basically following the model of the past ones. And you realize if you want to differentiate yourself, you've got to do something different. So what do? Well, number one, as a lawyer, and I know this is going to sound shocking, you return people's phone calls. You return their emails. You return, if you get a fax, you acknowledge it. In other words, you treat people like they want to be treated. Right. And guess what happens? Number one, when you open your own practice, people actually show up to the appointments. People actually tell their friends, hey, this is a good attorney. People actually say, wow, I can't believe your office called me 5 times before I came in. Well, that's because we wanted to share information with you. We wanted to say, welcome to the firm, and we wanted to make sure you knew how to get here. I mean, that's the way you realize that being a lawyer, if you build it, they will come, doesn't work.
Right.
You've got to go out and you've got to show up like nobody else shows up. And then you got to walk the walk and talk the talk. Because if you try to half step it, people are going to say, just like every other lawyer out there.
Right.
Wants to play golf on Friday, doesn't want to work. And people don't realize that when they see me sending them emails at 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I get a phone call. Were you emailing me at 3 in the morning? Yeah. Is that a bad thing? No. Why were you doing that? Well, I was up. I was up. And I got your email. I go to bed early. I was up at 3. So I emailed you back. Right. Clients love it.
Yeah,
they think, but here's the thing. The difference is this. When they walk in the door, they're probably going to see me walking through the lobby saying hi to them. Can I offer you a cup of coffee? They're blown away that I'm actually there in the office and that I take time to meet with them and talk with them. They know I've got 5 other lawyers working for me, but they don't care. They actually just like the fact that they know the guy who says he's going to be there for them is there.
Right.
And they like it.
Oh, yeah.
But I think a lot of lawyers, they'll spend more time figuring out reasons not to be wrong than they will changing a system or changing a process in their office.
Wow.
Because it didn't work.
Okay.
And I like processes. I like systems because that takes the thought out of it and you just do it. Once you do it and it works.
And it makes your life easier and saves you time.
Yeah, it's going to work for Bob. I mean, Here's a perfect example. We monitor our call rate, how many appointments were set, and then how many people actually showed up. Our goal is a 90% show rate. So if I make 100 appointments a month, I want 90 of those people to show up. And then we work relentlessly on the other 10% to make sure they come in later.
Okay.
But last month, we had a less than a 5%, which was fantastic. I mean, how many lawyers can say, I said 100 appointments and 95 showed up?
That's pretty good.
That's our goal was 10%. We got it down to 5, and now I want it to 4.
Keep going.
And again, so my point is we look at the 5% that didn't show up and we say, what did we do wrong?
Right.
To try
They're
to
always looking at you. Right.
And then we look at the 95% when they come through the door and we said, how did we do so far? And they say, your guys are unbelievable. Well, that's what we want to hear. And then the always question is there anything else we could do? No. I mean, I can't think of anything. Okay, great. That's the questions you have to ask. But lawyers don't like to ask those questions.
Right.
They like to think about, well, I'm a lawyer and I'm working on your case. Yes, you are, but you're also building a relationship with these people.
Right.
If you call me up and say, Carmen, I'm having my sister was in a car, my wife was in a car accident. I say, Jeff, come on in, bring your wife with you. Let's sit down and talk. You come in, we talk. I'm talking to you just like we're talking today about everything but the car accident. Right. After an hour, I say, oh, Jeff, by the way, let's talk about that car accident you and your wife was involved in, because that's the type of person I am. I like to get to know you because you are making a buying decision. You're buying me. You're trusting me. You got to like me and you got to respect me. The same thing is also true. I want to make sure that you're the person I want to work with.
Sure.
Because if I don't have faith in you, I don't think you're telling me the truth, or I think you're sugarcoating something, then I'm going to drill down on it. And I'm going to tell you, Jeff, look, the attorney-client privilege is the most amazing thing out there. You can tell me about the dead body in the garage, and I can't tell anybody about this ever. But if I don't trust you and like you, guess what I'm never going to do? I'm never going to make that offer to you. Right. Even if you want to hire me, I'm still not going to take your case, because I got to have that faith in you that you need to have in me. Otherwise, and that's the one thing I learned from my boss, your client selection is going to make your practice a happy place to go to or a nightmare to go to. Right. And certain times you've got to say, even if you've got a rent payment due and somebody comes in with cash, you sometimes have to say no, because it will be the biggest nightmare of your life.
I can see that. I think
great advice.
Yeah, that's hugely important, because you think about it, like most customer service, you spend all this time and waste, you could say, on bad clients, right?
Yep.
That are not communicating right, that aren't holding up their end of the bargain, that are just, for whatever reason, they're not playing the game the way they should be. Right.
You're chasing them. You're chasing them for money. You're chasing them for documents. You're chasing them for information.
Right.
You know what I say to them? I say, if I have to chase you, I'm going to send you a letter saying the relationship is over. And I hope you understand that that's not the way I practice law. I don't chase anybody.
Right.
We're here to help you. You got to be willing to help yourself, and you got to believe that we're the right people to do it. If you can't get to that point right now and make that commitment to me, then I think you need to find another lawyer. It's nothing personal. Right. I'm not going to be the lawyer for everybody out there.
Right.
But the people who do choose to work with me and I choose to work with them, we're going to kick some butt together, because that's what we do.
Well done. Okay. As we wrap up, let's talk a little bit more about how folks can get in touch with Carmen.
Oh, that's easy. Our website is DellutriLawGroup.com. You can call the office. Our Fort Myers number is 239 area code 939-0900. We're all over Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we give out a lot of free information.
Okay.
And again, if you can go to our website and request the free resources, we got ebooks, we've got regular books. If you want a hard copy book, if you've got other, I don't know, whatever your request is. If you have a request on a topic I haven't written about, I'll be glad to write about it, because I love what I do. Yeah, I love what I do. I love helping people. But I think the best thing on our website, I'll be honest with you, is the frequently asked questions and our blog, because the blogs usually come from questions from our clients. And I say, oh my God, that was a wonderful question. And I get a blog about it, or our YouTube channel. I mean, we've got hundreds of videos out there, and we shoot new ones all the time. I mean, the student loan thing came about so quickly. We pumped out about 6 or 7 videos just the other day on what it means for people, what they can do to help themselves. Now, again, this thing is not going to work for everybody, but for those it can work for, it's going to be fantastic, which is great.
Yeah, and that sounds like it's a brand new sort of like niche, right?
Well, it's the first program in the nation.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Well, we'll see how it works out. Hopefully, I can make it work for people, but it's going to take a lot of interplay between,
it's going to
creditors.
take a lot of work, right?
Oh yeah, but that's all right. I'm a workaholic, so I'm good with that.
Well, good for you. Hey, this has been a blast. I appreciate you hanging out with me for about an hour.
Thank you, Jeff. It's been wonderful. I'm just waiting. I'm getting a little nervous, wondering what you're going to ask me next, because I'm like, this guy can't. I mean, he's shooting laser beams at me over here. I'm thinking, what do I disclose? What shouldn't I disclose?
Hey, you were perfect. This is great. Thank you for being open and sharing your story with me. So,
Jeff, thank you. It was really, really great. You have a great day. All right.
All right. Thanks. Have a good one.
Once again for having me on. Take care.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.